Don't tell me what to make. I don't care about your take. It's my channel, and I do what I want. Wah!
All right, hello, welcome back to Hobby Vomit. I am Matt, and I'm doing the thing. I'm doing the tier ranking of every book that I read in 2025. I put it off for a little bit, I think everyone's kind of doing this at the very beginning of the year, sometimes at the before the year's even over, and I kind of wanted to give myself some time to let those books that I finish right at the end of the year sit a little bit before I do this. So yeah, if you've never seen one of these before, I'm just going to go through a list of in a randomized order of all the books that I read last year and throw them into one of these tiers. So at the very top, we have the best books that I read last year in the life-changing tier. Beneath that, we've got amazing books. Beneath that, we've got very good books. Beneath that, we got good books. And beneath that, in the very bottom tier, we've got blows raspberry, as in not good. And also my DNFs are going to go there, which, to be fair, aren't bad books. Maybe sometimes, but yeah, I'm just going to put them there as well. So yeah, other notes I think I need to go over before we start. I don't know. I don't think any. Lost Stephen King. As far as like character names when I'm talking about these books, I just I just struggle with remembering character names, so I probably won't remember a lot of people's names. And a lot of these are from over a year ago, so I will try to be brief unless I've got something notable to say. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So the first book we've got is The Colorado Kid by Stephen King. I liked this book. I thought it was good. This isn't where it's going. Yeah, I'm just throwing it up here as a little placeholder. But yeah, this is basically a crime book, kind of. I mean, it's part of a crime series, but it follows a newspaper reporter working for these two older gentlemen, and they talk about like a past unsolved crime. Let me reiterate, unsolved crime. And the point of this book is not to solve that crime. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. That's not the point of this book. But I really liked it. You know, it's got King's character work. It's good. Nice little mystery. Didn't blow me away, but I enjoyed it. I'm going to right now put it at the top of Good book. Next, we've got Carrie by Stephen King. So, Carrie, Stephen King's first published novel. I was very pleasantly surprised. I thought the character work was already like top tier, which, you know, it's. I feel like when I look at King's, I always want to say discography because I'm a musician. I don't know, collection of books. You would think you'd see like a ton of growth, but I think he's just been consistent from the beginning. I really liked Carrie. It was more sad than I thought it would be, I think. But yeah, I thought Carrie as a character was really interesting. Really liked it. I will say, very good book. I think so basically life changing. I'm gonna try and reserve for like 5 max. I think the reality is with a tier list, you kind of want to see a curve, but I guess not really, not all the time. If I just read amazing books, then I read amazing books. I'm gonna put them where they go. All right, we've got Night Shift by Stephen King. Unfortunately, it does cut these off. Oh, actually, you know what? Ha! I figured it out, guys. I figured it out. Night Shift by Stephen King. Let me make sure I'm still on the screen here. There we go. So this is, in a lot of people's opinion, the best collection of short stories by Stephen King. Got some notable bangers in there. But yeah, I thought it was very good for a short story collection. It's not my favorite of his. I think there's a lot of nostalgia King fans that have just convinced themselves that he'll never be what he was at a certain point in time, and so they latch onto that and won't let themselves enjoy the newer stuff as much. And I think Night Shift is a perfect example of that. There are some stories in there that are very just meh. But the highs are high, the lows are pretty eh. So yeah, just very good. All right. The Curse of the Mistwraith by Janie Wirtz. This was my first Janie Wirtz other than I read the Gallant, the short story that's she kind of recommends you read before this. Is the first story in the Wars of Light and Shadow series, which I was planning on reading alongside of Malazan. Huge mistake. After reading this and Gardens in the Moon at the same time, I realized I cannot do both of these at the same time. So I did put this series down after this book in order to do Malazan. But I'd like to get back to this at some point. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, actually. I think Jenny's prose is, that's a lot of what you'll hear people talk about. Her prose, and how she doesn't kind of fall into the typical tropes, which are both true points of her story, at least this story. I do think the prose is it's the most difficult I've ever read, for sure. Anyone that says it's easy, I think, is lying. It's not easy. It's just not. It's just like objectively not super easy to read. It does get easier as you make your way through the book. You start learning her prose, and it becomes more flowing. But it's very lyrical prose, which is my favorite part. It just feels like every sentence has a flow, and like I read a lot of books out loud. This one I didn't, but I do read a lot of books out loud to my partner Bree. And I feel like if I read this book out loud, every single sentence would have a lyrical flow to it, a lyrical nature. And I think I really enjoyed that part of it. I think the story was pretty good. Pretty memorable, too. I like the story of the two brothers. Yeah, I think I would put this at the I think the bottom of amazing. Really enjoyed that book. Okay. And like I said, I will be continuing that at some point. Hoping maybe Ian and I will tackle this together. We'll see. We'll probably want some time before or after Malazan going to another 10-book dense series. But eventually I would like to get back to that. All right, we've got The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett. This is my first Terry Pratchett. Most people say don't start with Discworld because it's probably the worst Discworld book. And I said, no. I'm gonna do exactly what you said not to do. / I just wanted to start at the beginning. And I know I'm kind of glad I did. I enjoyed this book. I thought it was good. I thought it had a learning curve as well, as far as like it almost felt more of like a collection of 4 novellas. So I didn't know that going in, and I kind of wish I did. I think I would have made my enjoyment of it even more so. But yeah, I liked it. I think the humor is good. Thought it was pretty whimsical. It's not a book I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, The Color of Magic. It just was good. And if this is the bottom of the barrel for Discworld, that's a good sign. So it does go, I think the thing about being new to reading is that there's so many books out there. I kind of know what I do and don't like. And so all of these books I read, I was like, I'm probably going to at least like these. So even though this is like probably one of the worst books I read last year, it's still good. I still enjoyed it. So yeah. All right, Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. This was a nice, pleasant surprise. Really enjoyed this book about a musician dealing with like a haunting, basically. And yeah, I don't know why I put it off. With Joe Hill, I kind of started with Nosferatu. But I wish I had started with it. I really like Nosferatu. I think Nosferatu more feels like King. This feels like Joe Hill, doing his own thing. I thought the scary moments were pretty genuinely scary. Had a nice plot, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would say this is very good. Yeah, I think I'm gonna bump Carrie to the bottom of amazing, and this goes at the top of very good. I think. It's gonna be King is gonna be tough. I feel like all of the Kings are gonna be kind of up in the amazing, but we'll see. All right, Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. Wow. Yeah, I mean, straight to the life-changing. This is one of the best books I've read. I think it won all of the awards it's won for a good reason. It's Stephen King's favorite book. That's kind of what got me to read it. Just it being Stephen King's favorite book. I was also starting a book club with my family. This felt like a nice, I don't know, middle ground. It is a long book. That was the biggest challenge. Is it's lengthy, but as far as content, like not all of us in the book club like fantasy or horror. So this felt like a nice middle ground, just like fiction, historical fiction. And man, whew, it was very, very good. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Some of the best character work I've ever read. And it's just the perfect example of like, for me as a character-driven reader, this plot and setting, it couldn't interest me less. It just couldn't. Like a cattle drive across America, I don't care. But if character work is good enough, then the plot doesn't matter. The setting doesn't matter because the characters can drive it for me. And this is a perfect example. I think the plot is so good, and the themes I think are better than the plot, but the characters are really where this book shines. So yeah, life-changing book. One of the best books I've ever read. Definitely one of the best books I read last year. That is Lonesome Dove. All right, followed by another absolute banger, The Heroes by Joe Abercrombie. I don't know if this was life-changing for me. I might put it up there for now. So The Heroes, here's why I'm going to put it in life-changing for now. It'll probably get bumped down by the end of this video. We'll see. The Heroes is what made me realize that war themes and action settings don't make a boring book. For fantasy, for me, there's a lot of action in fantasy, and they are always my least favorite parts of the books because I just don't really care. I want to get back to the characters or the politicking, or to me, a well-written politicking is almost always way more tense for me than just another battle where we're just like cutting through fodder. I'm not afraid for our main characters at all, that kind of thing. But The Heroes, what it does so well, and what impressed me so much, is that the entire book is about one battle that takes place over 3 days. That's the whole book. The entire book is one battle, which when I heard going into that, I was like, uh-oh. I loved the 4 Abercrombie books before that, but that did worry me a little bit. But I think what makes it so great is that Abercrombie has you learn and stay with characters on both sides of the battle. So you got a very large cast in this book, but you're following like 20 on each side. And what's so great about that is that when the actual fights do happen, everyone involved is someone you know. And so it's a battle, it's a war. Not everyone's going to make it. So you do feel afraid for these characters because everyone you know is taking place in this battle, and you're afraid of who's going to make it, who's not going to make it. And then you combine that with Abercrombie's character work, which is just arguably the best in fantasy. It just was made me realize that, like, okay, we can do battles that aren't boring. And here we go, perfect example. So, yeah, I'm going to put it in life-changing for now. It is a 5-star book for me, for sure. This is kind of like a 6-star book area up here. But for now, I think it's kind of toeing the line. But until something boots it, it's going to chill up there. All right, Murder at Spindle Manor. I don't remember the author's name. It looks like Morgan Stagg. I can't read it. It's too small. Sorry, author of Murder at Spindle Manor. But this is your book. And this was like an SBFPO, or I don't know the actual initial. Basically, an indie published competition that Mark Lawrence puts on every year. And this was one of the winners. I got it on a sale. I think all the previous winners were on sale on Kindle for like $1. And I needed something to read in bed that I could just read to fall asleep to. And I'm really particular about these types of books. Another one I did was Color of Magic. I don't want to put some of my favorite books. I don't want to, like, if it's a book I think I'm really going to love, I tend to not read it right before bed because I'll read a book till I get tired and then, go to sleep. But there's that last, like, couple of minutes where I really start to feel it that I feel like for my favorite book, I'd want to reread that every time. I want to be really focused and present when I'm reading my favorite books. So this was one of those, not like a throwaway book, just something like, yeah, I bet this is going to be good. Obviously it won that competition, but it's not what I'm really focusing on right now. So, anyways, that's what I mean when I call a book a bedtime read, which this is one of. And this is a fantasy murder mystery at a manor, and I liked it. I it turns out I read a lot more crime fiction or like murder mystery than I thought I ever would. But this really feels like fantasy Clue, basically. And I enjoyed it. I thought the characters were good, pretty unique and memorable. Some of the fantasy elements with the world building were really intriguing. That I believe there are other books in this series that set up the world building that it doesn't feel like while the case gets closed, doesn't feel like it's just the end of the book. It feels like the world has been created and now we're going to move on to something else. So I did enjoy that. But I didn't like it enough to immediately jump into the next book. I thought it was good. That was a good book. So, yeah. All right, King of Thorns by Mark Lawrence. The second book in the Broken Empire trilogy by Mark Lawrence. This is the first, I guess technically the second Mark Lawrence book I read. I read Prince of Thorns. Well, Prince of Thorns is right here. Let me just do Prince of Thorns first. Prince of Thorns, the first book in the Broken Empire trilogy by Mark Lawrence. Yes. Heard lots of good things about Mark Lawrence. Heard some, controversy around his characters, particularly or specifically Jorg, the character in this trilogy. Arguably the most unlikable fantasy character you will read. He's a terrible person. But guys, he's meant to be. He's meant to be. It's not like Mark Lawrence is sitting there like edging himself, loving how terrible this person is and like getting off on it. No, there's a purpose to him being this terrible person, and that's because this character has a pretty significant arc over 3 books. But yeah, I don't know. That's just an argument that I just find a little funny to me of like, oh, I didn't like what this character did in the first 4 pages. I'm out, and the book's bad. I'm like, if you want to be out, that's totally cool. Calling the book and the trilogy bad because of that, it's hard for me to take you seriously when you read like 7 or 8 pages. I don't know. That's the whole point of a character arc. But I digress. Prince of Thorns blew me away. Thought it was really great. I think Mark Lawrence's prose is really unique. I've never read any other prose like him. And I think the biggest weakness of Prince of Thorns is the side characters are pretty World building is really interesting. The prose is great. And Jorg is a really, really interesting character to follow. Even though you're not going to like him 99% of the time. Still really interesting character to follow. So I think this was very good. We're going to put that there. Followed by King of Thorns, the second book. This stepped it up. It made me actually start liking Jorg a little bit because you learn more about him and his past and what's formed him into the person he is. And the stakes get raised, the world building gets fleshed out, and the characters get a lot more fleshed out. So really enjoyed King of Thorns. I'm going to put this at the bottom of amazing. All right. Will White's The Engineer. This is the second book in the Last Horizon series, which is kind of like basically superheroes, fantasy superheroes in space. It's about a crew. You're following like a wizard, basically, that has found this sentient life ship, and he's gathering a crew in the first book. Second book, it's just them going on a quest. Each of these crew members has a quest. The second book is The Engineers, and yeah, it's good. Yeah, this was the perfect book for me to try and get used to audiobooks. It was perfect for that. I think Will White's style is okay. I don't think his prose is very, notable. It's not bad or anything. It's just simple. I think the humor is pretty decent. Characters, it's got a lot of like cool factor, I think. All the characters are unique. It almost feels like a Power Rangers kind of thing, assembling the team. Yeah, so I thought that was good. I'm going to throw it right there. Mercy, Tears of the Fallen by Chance Dillon. Chance Dillon, this is the second time I read this book, second time, because he had sent me a physical arc. I read that, and then I did read the final. Actually, I read an e arc. Then he sent me a physical arc, and those are the two I read. So I guess technically I've not finished the final product, but I think the physical arc was like basically right there. And I really like this book. It's very, he says it's kind of like a mixture between Erickson and Abercrombie. For me personally, I don't see as much Abercrombie as I do Steven Erickson in it, which isn't a bad thing. I just think with the way that Erickson doesn't hold your hand, throws you into a world that's got a lot of depth and history and magic, and not everything's going to be explained, and you kind of just, the first 3/4 of this book are it's like that meme with Charlie, like pointing at all the things of like, I don't know what's going on, but I love it. For me at least, I could see, it's not going to be for everybody. I loved that mystery and trying to keep track of what's going on, and then you kind of get some payoff, but not everything gets paid off, and it sets up for a nice sequel. Rereading it was an even better experience because you go in with that knowledge. So that was great. I this is gonna go. Man, I think I do like this more than Curse of the Mistwraith. This is gonna go top of amazing. Really, really love this book. What I don't have on this list, because I don't think there was an entry at the time that I pulled all these a while ago, or at the end of the year. The sequel, Ill is the Fate. Mercy, Ill is the Fate. This is the sequel that Chance is coming out with this year. I got to do an alpha read of that. So in its earliest state, and that's the other thing, is I don't feel totally comfortable putting it on a list like this when it's not the final product. Or at least very close. Like, it's got to go through beta and editing. This is like pre-edits, basically, that I had read it. I know he's very excited for it. I think he's sending over another physical arc, so I'm excited to reread it with a ton of editing that's been done. If I had to right now, just with the alpha, throw it on here, it would be the bottom of amazing. I think with edits, it's going to go above Tears of the Fallen, or right next to it at the very least. At the lowest, I think it goes there. It just clearly needed some edits, and that's the point of the alpha read. So I'm excited to see what those changes and edits are and to reread it. But yeah, I think it's just going to be a favorite series of mine. All right, The Night Boat by Robert McCammon. Been getting into Robert McCammon with particularly the Matthew Corbett series. He's basically the Stephen King of the UK, and I love that. Great character work. And so I wanted to try something of his older catalog and more pulpy horror. So this is The Night Boat, which is like kind of like there's like zombies in a U-boat, and it takes place on an island. It was okay. I mean, it was good. I don't really have an okay. It really blows raspberries, just okay or worse. I think this was better than okay. I think it was good. I liked it better than Color. I liked it better than, I'm going to put it there. It was good. The horror moments were great. I think the character work, you could tell it was early in McCammon's career. I think some of the characters were good. It had interesting plot, I guess. The ending is very abrupt. But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. It's pulpy. It wasn't overly long or anything. It was a nighttime book for me, a bedtime book, and it's perfect for that. All my bedtime books you'll see are going to be right here, which is exactly where I want them to be. So there they are. All right. Another family book club book we read was Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. I really liked this book. I had read it a long time ago. I remember really liking Vonnegut's writing style, even when I wasn't like into reading. And yeah, I think it holds up. It's crazy how just like his prose is great. It's very funny, very easy to read. He uses repetition in a very, very good way, I think. And yeah, it's just an interesting story, I think. It's not, it is a story about war, but presented in a way that's going to feel unique and not just a war story. So this is gonna go right here. Yeah, it's gonna go right there. Stephen King's Revival. Oh man, I love this book. This book was incredible. This is one of those books that you see it online. You either love it or you hate it, I think. And a lot of that hinges on I think this book unfairly sets up bad expectations. Anytime you hear anybody talking about this book, it's about the ending. Oh, the ending's crazy. It's the craziest ending Stephen King's ever written. Blah, 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 blah. Guys, the ending is good. It's good. I think it's good. It's really good. But the star of this book is the character work. The character work of this book is insanely good. You're following this main character through his entire life. And yeah, I just think it's incredibly well-written character. Maybe one of the best Stephen King characters I've read. The way he writes like nostalgia and coming of age is just, it's so good. And then, yeah, the horror elements are really, really good. Yeah, I just think I have no notes. I have no notes with this book. I could see if the expectation that is set up, it's terrifying, right? And I would say if you've not read this book and you are interested, go in with the correct expectation, which is that there are horrifying elements of this book. That's not the point of this book. Is you're just following a man's life that's dealing with addiction. And there are horrific elements of that, but the majority of that it's going to feel boring if you want a horror story the entire time. It's not that. Incredible book. Not quite, I don't know. Yeah, we're just going to top of amazing. Okay. House of the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. Another family book club. This was cute. Orphanage of magical children. A lot about, deals. The theme of this book is the star, right? It's about bias and, not judging a book by its cover, essentially. And it's cute. It's cute. It's very wholesome. I think the storytelling was good. It's just like, I don't know if I would have picked it up if it had not been for my family book club, but I'm glad that I read it. This will go with I'll put it here. Very good. Top of very good. Bottom of very good. All right, Discovery by J.A.J. Minton. Jaj Minton. The people over at Talking Story. This is Discovery, the first book, and I don't know, a series of 4 or 5 or 6. I don't know how many books there's going to be. This is an interesting one for me. I liked it. I didn't love it, and I think part of that was, again, an expectation thing for me. I didn't realize, and I think you should realize this, again, if you've not read this, I think you should know this, that it is basically a collection of, it's more like an anthology than anything. If you've read Hyperion, think something like that, where there is an overarching story connecting the short stories and the novellas within it. But really it feels like a collection more of novellas because there are characters, each section follows a character. And more often than not, you're basically not going to see that character again for a long time. And if you do, it's barely in passing. That's my negative for it. The positives, the characters are so good, it frustrated me that I was like, oh, I love this character. I'm so glad I got to know them. Oh, I don't get to see them again for 400 pages? Okay, I guess. Like, you connect me to these characters, and then you just, you pull the rug. And which is fine. I loved Hyperion, but I think I knew what Hyperion was going into it. And I think that was the problem for me. I didn't know this going into it. Seems like it's a well-researched book. There's a decent amount of hard science, which is not my favorite. So yeah, I think just good book. Good. All right, The Running Man by Stephen King. I really enjoyed this. This is like the epitome of pulp. This is pulp fiction. Really interesting ending. I like the ending. I think it's a great ending. Not the best main character. You don't really love to root for him so much. He's okay. But I thought it was good, very exciting, very easy to read, action packed. And yeah, I thought very good. I'm going to throw it above Gear. I didn't like it as much as The Night Shift, though. Damn, that seems like a good spot. If It Bleeds by Stephen King. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of Stephen King on this list as I am currently working my way through his catalog. If It Bleeds is 4 novellas, one of which is, the title, If It Bleeds, is a Holly Gibney novella, which takes place directly after The Outsider. I was hit or miss on this. I think Harrington's, I don't remember, Mr. Harrington's Phone. I thought it was just okay. Like, it was like meh. But the other 3 I thought were great. So If It Bleeds, I thought was really good. I know a lot of people are sick of Holly. I get it. But I thought it was a great novella. I thought it was awesome. He writes crime fiction, I think, pretty good. Especially when he's mixing the paranormal with it. I'm okay with that. It's Stephen King. I could see why it might rub some people the wrong way, but like, I'm okay with crime fiction if it has some paranormal elements. And honestly, I think I prefer it because just like true crime for me is just so depressing. I don't want to just read about serial killers and shit. Like, it's just not. I get why it's exciting. A lot of people do. I'd rather have some paranormal element to kind of like separate the real world from it for me. But yeah, I thought that was great. The Life of Chuck was a beautiful novella, written in a very unique structure that I didn't, going blind. If you don't know, I didn't know anything about it. I just knew a movie was coming out, and I wanted to try it out before seeing the movie, which I inevitably didn't end up seeing, which is funny. But I'd like to see it at some point. But yeah, and then Rat is the finale, which I loved. Rat, just about an author, trying to write that perfect novel. He's not been able to finish a novel, but he's got some interesting forms of inspiration that have to do with a rat, and loved it. Felt, it's a descent into madness, and you feel it as the reader as well. So really, really liked this collection of novellas. Yeah, let's throw it there. All right. Sharp Ends by Joe Abercrombie. It's a really weird one. It's a collection of short stories that takes place in the world of the First Law, but it has a very specific point where you kind of need to read it, I think, which is after the first 6 books, after the 3 World of First Law or Great Leveler trilogy. And that's where, we read it. I think we mostly listened to this on audiobook, which is Stephen Pacey. One of the best out there. Probably the best out there, I think, for me. And yeah, I think this is really interesting thing for Joe Abercrombie, because Joe Abercrombie is so character driven as an author that, and I think conversely, short stories usually need to be very plot heavy, because I don't know, at least my experience, that you almost always are. That can be complemented by great characters, but it's usually got to be a plot driving that short story. But like true Joe Abercrombie, a lot of these short stories don't really have much of a plot. And so if you're like me and you absolutely love Joe Abercrombie's writing, which I do, then they're great. They're so good. They're so really good. But like, they just feel kind of like they almost belonged in the other books, but they kind of got cut and trimmed, and so he kept them here. So, I mean, I always love reading his writing, but I wouldn't say these are super memorable or anything. They're just like, oh, do you like some of those characters? You get a little bit more of them, and yeah, I thought it was well, I mean, yeah, I think realistically it goes there. Gub. Hyperion by Dan Simmons. This one really blew me away. I mean, you kind of heard me talking a little about it when we were reading when I was talking about Discovery. I read this because I was watching a channel and someone named Red, I don't know if he's active anymore, but he wanted to do a book club for this, and so I picked it up. I don't really know if the book club ended up happening, but I just decided to read it, and wow, it blew me away. First Dan Simmons I had ever read. I was really weary of sci-fi at this point because a lot of the sci-fi I'd read up to this point I didn't love. Like, I had read the first Red Rising, I had read Project Hail Mary, I had read Dark Matter, and all of those were just kind of like meh. I didn't really particularly love any of those. And so I was kind of nervous going into this, but this was also a collection of short stories and novellas. They're fairly lengthy, some of them, so I would call them novellas. And man, it's really just about these, X amount of pilgrims going to a planet to pilgrimage there, looking for the Shrike, which is a terrifying creature. And not every story is the best. I do have a ranking of my favorite stories, but most of them are, I would say even the worst one is good, but the best ones are incredible. And yeah, I just was really blown away by this so much that I immediately went out and got the other three. Haven't read them yet. I know they're not supposed to be as good, but even if they're not as good, as long as they're pretty close, then they're gonna be great. So this is gonna go. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. I think we're gonna go here. This would probably move up on a reread, but now I'm gonna put it there. All right, Emperor of Thorns, the third and final book in the Broken Empire trilogy by Mark Lawrence. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Who knows? Sitting in my nose. Allergies in Texas right now they're the worst. Okay, so did Mark Lawrence pull off an ending? Absolutely, he did. Jorik's character arc is finalized in this book, and it is oh, it's so good. It's perfect. The character arc. The book is not perfect. The plot is pretty good. It's pretty good. There are some moments more in this than the other two that are just like I don't know if we really needed that part, like whole parts. But man, he's in all three books. There are at least one or two scenes that are like burned into my brain. Just horrific scenes, and this definitely had one. But man, this is the first book that had a scene burned into my brain that was not horrific, just like beautiful. So it just makes me excited for reading future Mark Lawrence. I've not read any more beyond this trilogy, but like, this is your first trilogy, my guy's got it. I don't know if I liked it as much as King of Thorns, but yeah, let's throw it right above Prince of Thorns. Very good. Yeah. All right, Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is an interesting one, like I said. Sci-fi. I mean, it's just such a weird book. It's like, is it sci-fi? Technically, yeah, but like, it kind of almost reads more like a fantasy book. With like it's a sci-fi world where they strip all the sci-fi elements from these characters, so it kind of feels like a weird fantasy with some Hunger Game elements as well. And yeah, it was. Let me say, it was better than I thought it would be. I think a lot of people talk about this book of like, or the series of like, yeah, the first book it's like and then it gets really good. So I was expecting the first book to be like really just like, all right, let's push through it. But like, it's a fast-paced plot. It's fairly like graphic. So if you like that part of the Hunger Games, it's entertaining. The character work is pretty and the actual plot's okay too. His prose is really just, you can tell it's his first like published book. It's not the best, and yeah. But all that to be said, I thought it was pretty good. I think it's gonna go into very good. And little sneak peek, I've since read Golden Sun, and oh yeah, people are right. There are people that talk about like Malazan and Dark Tower and all these series where it's just like you just got to get through the first book. You just got to get through it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is one of those. It's still a good book. And same with Malazan, and same with Dark Tower, which you'll see me talking about Malazan here a little later on. But yeah, that's Red Rising. I wouldn't be super stoked to reread it when the time came, if and when the time came, but I think it sets up the world pretty well, and you really get to see Pierce Brown's growth up into the next book. All right, Little Eve by Catriona Ward. Actually, it's pronounced Catriona in her interviews. That's how she pronounces it, so that's how I will pronounce it. Catriona Ward. Little Eve. This is about a cult off an island, an island off of Scotland. Many, 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 many years ago. I don't remember what year it takes place, but it was great. I love Catriona Ward's prose. It's very beautiful. This was like a gothic novel, and it blew me away. I had read Last House on Needless Street. That was the only other Ward book I had read. Loved that. I know that gets a lot of criticism because the twist is so obvious, and I guessed it from the first page, which pretty sure you didn't. But that's okay. Even if you did, it doesn't make a book bad just because you guess what's going to happen. But whatever. This is another book that some people are just like, I knew what was going on, and therefore book bad. But I thought it was great. I thought it was a good little mystery. Again, I think she writes. Her writing is just beautiful. Love the sentences, her sentence structure and prose, and this. I think it felt very transportive. She did a good job of capturing the time period it was in. Yeah, really, really enjoyed this book. This is gonna go. There. I'm gonna do this. Heart-shaped box should be above Prince of Thorns. Yeah. Okay. Stephen King's The Outsider. Okay, this is another Holly Gibney book, which, if you didn't know that, surprise, it's not very much advertised as a Holly Gibney book, but it is, and a lot of people get to the Holly Gibney part and they go, "Oh, this is a Holly book. I'm out." Which again, I don't get it personally, at least for that reason. But I do agree that the first half of this book is significantly stronger than the second half. And yeah, I don't know. The second half didn't bother me the same way End of Watch. It kind of, if you read End of Watch, kind of know what you're getting into. So it didn't feel as much like a rug pull here. But, I think the character work in this book and the friendship between Ralph and Holly is just top tier. Platonic friendship that is full of love. I think that's one of Stephen King's strengths is he writes these platonic relationships that are just pure love for each other without it being romantic. And he just does it so well. And Ralph and Holly definitely have that here, and I absolutely loved it. So this is going to go, I think it goes, yeah, it's going to go just below Red Rising. I liked it more than House of the Cerulean Sea. Come on now, little guy. There we go. But yeah, I think if it were as consistent as the first half all the way through, it'd be closer to up here, maybe even here. But it does have a pretty decent drop off at the halfway point. The Mountain and the Sea by Ray Naila. Another sci-fi book. This is a book that Ian chose for he and I to buddy read. And yeah, I didn't know anything about this. It is a multi-POV futuristic first contact book. And yeah, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed some POVs like significantly more than others, and I don't think it really stuck the landing as much. It felt very rushed at the end. So yeah, this is at the yeah, we'll put this here at the top of Gub. Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. This was an interesting one for me. Make sure we're still on screen here. Yep. Yeah, this was an interesting one for me. A lot of people love this book. I did not. I did not like this book very much, and I had a lot of problems with it. Specifically, this is what made it so frustrating to me, is that the author, she constantly set up these really cool, unique ideas that would go against tropes. And then, 2 pages later, be like, nah, we're going back to the tropes, baby. Like, oh, you thought that was interesting? Well, just kidding. We're undoing all of that, and we're just going to do exactly what you thought was going to happen. It's just so boring. I don't know. And I don't mind tropes, but it's when you do it in that nature of oh, wow, this is interesting. This is an interesting villain, because it's not just hey, I'm an evil villain twirling my mustache. Nope, just kidding. That is the villain. They're just an evil villain twirling their mustache. You thought maybe there was some nuance. No, there's not. I take that away. And it just constantly kept happening. I thought the characters were fine. I thought the world building was fine. It just was fine all the way through. But my expectations were really high, and it's a long book, and it does not earn its page count for me. So we've got our first. Um, but again, like I said, I think for here is really just like a 3-star. I just read, I didn't really read any bad. It's not a bad book. It's not even close to being a bad book. It just was really disappointing for me. So any blows raspberries, I'm gonna give probably like what I actually give it as in a star. I think this is probably like a 3 or 3.25 kind of thing. I don't think it earns its page count. I think that's the biggest thing against it. It's a 1,000-page book that could have and should have been like 500. So yeah, I don't know. Apparently a sequel's coming out. I will not be reading it, even if it's just a duology. I just didn't like it enough to do that. All right, The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. Another hot, controversial book on BookTube because I get it, actually. So, yeah, so this is first non-First Law Joe Abercrombie ever? No, he's got the YA series, but, like, non-YA ever. And, yeah, I think it disappointed a lot of people because they went in with their expectations of this is just going to be another First Law book. Even though I think Joe Abercrombie basically was very vocal about, no, it's not. It's not that. This is not that. And yet people were, I think, still disappointed when it wasn't that. But yeah, this is exactly what he kind of pitched it as, which is medieval Suicide Squad. You're following the Devils, this crew of criminals that all have, very ragtag crew. There's a pirate, there's a werewolf, there's a magician, and they are on a quest to do something. It sets it up in the very beginning of the book. This book is about a quest, and they're going to go do that quest, and that's the book. And, yeah, I don't have any problems with that. I do think it has some pretty significant pacing issues. I think the character works excellent. It's Joe Abercrombie, guys. It is on par with, I think, his other characters. There's characters from the Devils I will remember just as much as characters from the First Law. And yeah, I think that's a strength. I think the problem with the Devils is there's a lot of, because it's just a quest book, and very much of like, we got to take down the 4 bosses, right? Or whatever, 5 bosses, and each part is one of those, and it's a travel. We're traveling across the land, and we got to take the bosses down one by one. So what do you think those parts are? Traveling, taking down a boss. Travel, taking down a boss. So it gets a little repetitive, especially when the stakes don't really feel like they're quite there yet. It's a lot of like our heroes fighting cannon fodder that I don't know who they are. It's literally just like grunts. And so when those battles take like 35 pages, I don't care if they're well written. I'm snoozing. And so yeah, this book kind of fell into that, unfortunately. It's just those action scenes are way too long, and I just found myself tapping out because I wasn't getting character work. I wasn't getting interesting battles, and by the third time I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. But the character work's excellent. I think it ends really, really strong. So yeah, I think it's a good book. I'm gonna put this at the top of Gub. Yeah, top of Gub. Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. Another beloved BookTube book that did not really work for me, unfortunately. I had a lot of problems with this book. I think Buehlman's got excellent prose, insane world building, and the creativity in this book is next level. It's really unique and super creative. As someone that grew up Catholic too, this is basically like you're following an ex-priest and a young girl as they travel across Europe to reach a city to fulfill a quest, basically. But it's very serialized for most of the book. It's like each chapter is like they move to a place, and then something horrific happens, and then they move to a new place, and something horrific happens. But it's centered around the church, and yeah, I just feel like this was. I would believe if Christopher Buehlman grew up Catholic and was scared of the devil and hell, just with the creativity of this book. Love that aspect of it. My problem with this book is that it presents itself in a in a way that it's like it sets it up that it's going to be a Logan or a The Last of Us kind of thing, like an old grizzled person that has to escort a young innocent person and protect them, and throughout that journey the grizzled person will change and learn to care for this person, and that's what this book is set up to do. And it it he'll tell you that it does it, but there's no evidence that that stuff happens. It just happens because it's supposed to happen. And like for a book like that, the characters are separated for like 95% of the book. So I just found it really, really hard to buy into their relationship for the entirety of it, which made the ending not really work for me. Like on paper, I think it works, but I think the execution of this book was pretty poor, unfortunately. So yeah, this is, it's still good. This is right here. I know a lot of people love that book and like, yeah, it's like Dark Souls in a book, and like, yeah, it is, but like as a character-driven reader, he'll tell you how the characters are, and like I said, on paper, it's like, yeah, I like that on paper, but like you gotta show me somehow this transition of a character. You gotta show me the arc. You can't just start one way and then at a random point in the book be like, now they're this way. They are. Trust me. And I'm like, wait, but how did we get from here to here? That doesn't make any sense. And that's what this book is. So as a character-driven reader, it really took me out of it, unfortunately. All right, Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. Speaking of great character work, we've got another Joe Abercrombie book, and this is a fantasy western book. Man, I had heard that this is the worst. This is the worst First Law book, but I loved it. I loved it. I could see it is a lot slower paced maybe than some of the rest, but man, I absolutely love this book. I did not like it as much as The Heroes, but really phenomenal book. It's definitely amazing. It's going to go right there. Amazing book. I can't wait to reread it. Yeah, can't wait to reread it. All right. Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. This is a horror fantasy book. And it's a horror lawyer fantasy book, which is awesome. I didn't really know I needed that until I read it, and I loved it. It is told from the point of view of a character that I think a lot of people don't really like. I liked her as a main character. I thought she was pretty believable for the most part, less so in book one. I think he really heard the criticisms of that in book one and fleshed out her as a character in books 2 and 3 a lot better, but I still think it worked in book 1. But really, it's almost like the main character of the book is not the person telling you the story that was there, which is really interesting storytelling technique. I don't know what the heck that's called, and they're also telling it from like an old age, like recalling the story to you. It was like first person from the future. It's very weird, but it worked really well for this book. The horror elements were great. I think Richard Swan's writing is excellent. This was very much just like a murder mystery, small town kind of feel, with the looming threat around. And yeah, I really I would say this is a very good book. We're gonna put this at the right there. All right, Memories of Ice by Steven Erikson, right up into Life Changing. Yeah, I mean, if you've read this, you probably know Memories of Ice. I don't think I'll ever stop thinking about this book. And you know what? Let's just do it. Dead House Gates is going up here too. Both of these books are insanely good books. Steven Erikson is just capturing my attention fully. There's a part of me that wonders if the discussion videos that Ian and I are doing are kind of giving these books more of like a boost, because these books are arguably getting double or triple the attention other books I'm reading are. We're taking notes and doing long discussions that's really like giving me new perspective, because Ian catches a lot of stuff that I don't. And just, I do think that boosts my experience for sure. So I don't know if these would be up here if I just sat down and read it. So my suggestion would be, if you do ever read Malazan, I think one, buddy reading it is the way to go. And if you can't buddy read it, or even if you do, find a series out there. There's plenty, and follow along with them, and kind of get other perspectives, because it will really, one, keep it less confusing, because it is a lot to manage and keep track of, and two, I think it will just boost your enjoyment of it overall. But yeah, both of these books are awesome. Chain of Dogs, what can I say? Never forget Coltane the goat and Duker. Oh. And then yeah, Memories of Ice, Itkovian. It just, man, I don't even know what to say. There's too much to say. There's so many characters. They're all great. Whoever says Steven Erikson can't write characters, I just genuinely don't understand that. I genuinely don't understand it. He can write a character so well that I can understand a character with like 2 sentences of dialogue, and that's all I get in like a whole book, and I get them. And like, to me, that is just a talent that you can do that. But he obviously does more than that. But you are juggling a lot of characters, but they feel like real characters, every one of them. None of them feel like a fake character. And to me, I just find that so impressive. Combine that with a really crazy, just intricate plot with a lot of politicking, which is my favorite part. I love the politicking of the just gods and men, the different races, and there's so many levels, there's so much depth, but then really just like what being human is all about is at the center of these books. And that's, I think, what really drives the books home for me. And yeah, incredible books. Love it. Life-changing. All right, let me get another sip. All right. We've crossed the halfway point. Let me, boom. All right, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon by Stephen King. This is an interesting Stephen King book, very different than his other books. This is about a girl being lost in the woods, and there may or may not be something supernatural there with her. Yeah, it was good. Not my favorite Stephen King book. I think my favorite parts of Stephen King books are characters and dialogue, and there's not a lot of dialogue in this book because the girl's alone, and she has no one to really bounce off of. And so it wasn't bad or anything. I just found myself missing that a little bit. But the survival elements he writes really well. There's some parts that were genuinely like hard for me to read because you feel it. You feel what the character's feeling. I think it has an excellent ending, very emotional ending. And yeah, I think just good book, but where am I putting this here? I think I'm going to put it beneath The Devils. The Devils, the character work eclipses it a little bit. All right, Cold Silver for Souls by Tori Tekken, a booktuber. Oop. So this was a DNF for me. So I'm going to throw this right here. You know what's not on here that should be is Trust in the Emerald Sea. Speaking of DNFs. If I remember to talk about it, I'll talk about it. Cold Silver for Souls. So this is an interesting one. This is one that I think it just was the wrong book at the wrong time because I had just finished reading Red Country and I had just finished reading The Dark Tower, which are both fantasy westerns. And then I got Cold Silver for Souls, which is a fantasy western following a necromancer. Interesting setup, but this was actually my very first DNF, and I decided to start DNFing because of Tori. Ironically, I watched her channel, and she did this thing where she would give a book. I think she'd give a book 100 pages. It may have been 50, but 50 or 100 pages. And if she wasn't hooked, she would DNF it. And that's exactly what I did for this book. I wasn't really loving it after the first 50. It felt a little repetitive in what the character was trying to convey to me as the reader. And then I hit page 100 and I just found myself like looking at my bookshelf being like, I want to read other stuff. So I DNF'd it. Not bad, I don't think, but I think just not for me. And again, unfortunately, it just was a timing thing. Like you're batting up against Joe Abercrombie and Stephen King, and that's a tough ask for anybody, for any author. So was a DNF for me. And then let me talk about Trust versus the Emerald Sea, or whatever the hell it's called, Trust in the Emerald Sea. It's Brandon Sanderson. My relationship with Brandon Sanderson is rocky. I have a complicated relationship with Brandon Sanderson. I read all of Mistborn, all three, or sorry, the first Mistborn trilogy, Arrow 1, if you will. So Final Empire, Well of Ascension, and Hero of Ages. Really liked Final Empire. Thought Well of Ascension was and I don't really care for Hero of Ages. I think it was not very good. I think Brandon Sanderson is an excellent storyteller, an excellent plotter, but a horrible character writer, and I've never felt less trusted as a reader when I read his books, to where he just repeats shit over and over and over and over and over, to where like in Mistborn he was still telling me the mechanics of like a steel push in the third book of a trilogy. I'm like, I get it, I know how she does it. You could just say she steel pushed and I'd get it, but we have to go into the minutia of like how it happens. And I don't know. I feel like my experience with Brandon Sanderson is that every book of his I've read, I was like, wow, this could have been at least 25% shorter and probably be better for it. That includes Way of Kings. So this was like Brandon's final chance for me. I wanted to read one of his standalones. I didn't want to continue with Stormlight. I didn't want to continue with Mistborn. And I love Princess Bride. And so this was the book, Trust in the Emerald Sea, a whimsical adventure. And it started off very strong. I was like, okay, Brandon, all right. And then part two, it just fell into the same, like, I feel like Tress had an identity in the first part, and it was building this character that I was interested in. And then part two went right back to just, oh, she's just there so we can get the plot. So Brandon can explain the plot to me. She's just a plot tool. And I don't like that, and I really, I hated the narrator. I don't think Brandon's humor is good at all. It's not for me, and I think Hoyt is super obnoxious, super obnoxious. So DNF for Tress and the Emerald Sea. All right, The Immortal Investigation by Michael Cronk, the book guy, also in BookTube. This is also going down here, unfortunately. This was before I started DNFing books. If I were in the flow of DNFing books, I would have DNF'd this book. It's like a buddy cop romance, genre blend, urban fantasy. I just really didn't like the characters. Urban fantasy, I think, is just not for me. The like cop elements, I think at times were a little laughable. The characters' logic almost didn't really make sense, and the romance was like, whew, too steamy for my taste. It was like bordering like porn at points, and I was just like, what am I reading? Like, I didn't realize I was getting into this. So I just think Cronk's writing it wasn't strong enough to carry the book. I don't think the character were like, I think all of it was serviceable, but I don't think anything was strong enough to really carry the book. And so I bought the trilogy that he kickstarted, and I won't be continuing that, unfortunately. So if you're watching this and you somehow made it this far and you are interested in in that trilogy, let me know. If you pay shipping and you're in the U.S., I would happily send them to you. I'd love for them to get read. Any of these bottom rows, I have them physically, and if you pay for shipping and you are in the U.S., I will gladly send them to you so that I can get read by somebody. Okay, Ghost Written by Ronald Malfi. My first Ronald Malfi. This is a collection of 4 novellas. A lot of people are claiming that Malfi is the modern Stephen King. And I was like, all right, I got to get a little taste of that. And yeah, really enjoyed it. All 4 novellas are themed around books, which was a fun little thing. I think some were better than others, for sure. There weren't any that were like excellent. But there weren't any that were bad either. They're all like good to very good. I don't know really with being novellas if I totally get Ronald Malfi's like vibe yet, but I enjoyed reading them. So these are gonna go right here, right above House of the Cerulean Sea. I am excited to eventually get to more Ronald Malfi. Just one of those things that you got a million things to read, and he's not quite the top of my list, but I'm hoping I will read at least one Malfi this year. All right, The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. This is a weird one. You will not see the other First Law books here, and that is because I was just trying to train my brain to understand how to listen to audiobooks because I was really struggling with tuning out. And so I was like, you know what might help is if I listen to a book I've already read before. So I'd read the first trilogy. This was after finishing the second trilogy, and I just needed something to listen to. Loved Stephen Pacey and The Devils and Sharp End, so I was like, this is perfect. This is great. I mean, this book's a banger, guys. It's a banger. And it does have a plot. It's not the point of the book, but there is technically a plot there. It's not, do I put in amazing? I'm just going to put the very top of very good. Like if I had to say, I do think this is probably of the First Law books, this is probably my least favorite. Yeah. So take that for what you will. Still at the top of very good, arguably at the bottom of amazing, but yeah, great book, great characters. I mean, the characters are the book, so yeah, loved it. All right, Stephen King's Holly. Oh, it's Holly again. A lot of Holly this year. I like Holly. I think Holly is good. I don't think Holly's incredible. I like her enough to where I'll read the books. I plan on reading Never Flinch at some point. But I wouldn't, I think like a lot of people say, King has earned the right to write. I mean, not that any author has to earn the right. Any author should just write what they want to write, not what people want them to write. But if anyone's earned the right to write what they want to write, Stephen King. If he wants to write Holly, if he feels connected to Holly, let him write. Like, let the man write. And honestly, they're good books. Like, Holly is good. It's not the best book he's ever written. It's not even close to the best book he's ever written. But it's a good book. Good character work, just like always. Interesting villains. Really fun villains to follow, actually. And, like, yeah, I enjoyed it. I will say it is... good book. Good. All right, Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. I really liked this book. This was another of those series that everyone's like, yeah, you just gotta get through it. You just gotta get through the first book, and then it gets good. And like, I hear what you're saying. I do think Dead House and Memories of Ice are both better, but like I was expecting like to not like Gardens of the Moon, just be like, all right, we just gotta put that aside and keep going. But like, I really liked it. I thought it's just like The Rule of Cool, the book. Like everything that happened, I was like, that was awesome. That was awesome. That was awesome. That was awesome. And he just constantly writes things that, at least for me, I was never expecting. It kept me on my toes. It is a tough world to jump into, for sure. It has a learning curve. I needed to read it with like a guide essentially. But yeah, by the end of it, I really liked it, and I could not wait to get to the next book. So this is going very good. Not as good as Blade itself, though. Let's put it right there. My voice is giving out. All right, we don't have too many more. Empire of Silence by Christopher Ruocchio, the first book in the Sun Eater series. I thought this book was mid as mid could be. It was so fine, it hurt. Now, speaking of series where the first book, everyone's just like, you just got to get through it. This is one of those. I think Ruocchio's prose is pretty dang good, but I also feel like it gets on my nerves a little bit. there are authors that have very beautiful, flowery prose that feels purposeful. I feel like Rocchio's sometimes feels like it's there just so he can be like, yeah, I can do that. It feels like there he's it's like there to show off almost. And it sometimes rubs me the wrong way. I think Hadrian, our main character, is pretty meh in this book. There's a romance that is just meh in this book, more frustrating than anything. I think the action is okay. I think the plotting and pacing is pretty weak. It just felt like I restarted a book like 4 times throughout this book, and then by the end of it, it just almost didn't really have much of a purpose. And like I don't know, it just was fine. It definitely made me be like, I know it's supposed to get better, so I will continue reading. If I didn't know that, if this were just coming out and it was the first book, the 4th book, I probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't continue. But, yeah, this is gonna go right here. Good. If I ever did a reread, I don't think I'd reread this one personally. All right, Insomnia by Stephen King. This is a book my brother hates. He's a huge Stephen King fan. He'd been reading Stephen King for a long time. And this was not one he enjoyed, but it does have Dark Tower connections. And I'm trying to pace myself while going through Stephen King's collection. By every time I read like an absolute friggin' banger, I'm like, all right, let me go to the other side of the spectrum, one that people don't love as much, and try it. And Insomnia was my pick for that. And I loved it. Yeah, I really liked this book. Really liked the older protagonist. It's not my favorite King book, and it has pacing issues for sure. It is slow. It's so slow. But I'm just the type of reader that if I like the character, they can be just sitting in their house for 60% of the book, and I'm here for it. It has some really interesting, unique ideas, and the ending is like, oof, it's so emotional, and it sticks the landing again. I mean, you'll hear me say King sticks the landing over and over again because like he kind of mostly always does. So him having the reputation that he can't write an ending is just hilarious to me. When he's got like 75 books and people are like, yeah, you can't write an ending. Yeah, it's just these 2 books that we say over and over again. And that means he sucks at writing endings. But I'm like, I don't know. I'm like 35 books into his collection now, and I don't think I've read one that has a bad ending yet. But this one's excellent. Great ending. Great character work. Ooh, yeah, this is going above The Blade itself. Really liked Insomnia. All right, Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. Straight up into amazing. It's not going to go life-changing. But man, do you like Kill Bill? Do you like fantasy? Read Best Served Cold. It's basically that. It's a revenge story. And, yeah, it's badass. Great character work. Well, I mean, we talked about Joe Abercrombie enough. He hits it in all of them. Incredible character work. Pretty good action in this one. Good plot, actually. I feel like the pacing, this is maybe one of his best paced books. If you hate slow paced books, I think this one is pretty fast paced. And yeah, pretty memorable. I'm excited to reread it when the time comes. This is gonna go. Ooh. It's gonna go below Revival. Revival just oh man, I just didn't know what it just surprised me so much. Where Best Served Cold's like I knew what I was gonna get, and it delivered. All right, so The Lesser Devil by Christopher Rocchio. This is a novella that takes place either between books 1 and 2 of Sun Eater, or you can read it after book 2 if you want. We decided to read it before book 2. I called this an interesting step sideways for Christopher Rocchio. We move away from the first person point of view, move to a third person, which was good. The character work improved, I think, but the world building tanked, and it had a ton of like self-inserted religious ideals in here that really it turned me off a lot from the book. So yeah, it's gonna go. I think like I think just because it's shorter, it goes above Empire of Silence. But Same thing. If I reread this series, I would not reread either of those personally. And who knows? I might not reread any of them. We are just finishing up Howling Dark. Actually, you know what? I'll say it. I liked Howling Dark quite a bit. So I do think these are both a pretty significant step down from Howling Dark. All right. Down in the Holler by Bridget Riley. This is Ian's wife. Just need to put that out there so the bias is on the table. It's a little murder mystery. Basically a novella. It's a pretty short book. And yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I think the main character reminded me a lot of Holly, actually. So if you like Holly from Stephen King, I think you'll really enjoy this book. It's got good character work, an interesting plot. The mystery, I think, carried the book enough. Between that and the character work, I think it carries enough. It's pretty fast paced, small town vibes. I think that the town could have been fleshed out a little bit more. And there's also like a romantic subplot that didn't really work for me. But I am excited to read the second book because it's I'm blanking on the. I can't remember the main character's name. Something Temple. I want to say Judy Temple, but I don't want to be wrong about that. But I think this is going to be a series of books where each book is a new crime. There are some supernatural elements to it, which again, I think I prefer that in my crime books, so I think that's why it works for me. But yeah, if you like Holly, I definitely support an indie author. I would be, if I didn't like it, I'd be honest. These are indie authors, and I didn't like them. So, so this is a let's see, this was a good book. This is going to go. Ooh, this is actually tough. I think this is going to go right here above the Night Boat. I think the only reason why it doesn't go... I think the character work is stronger in Down the Holler than Between Two Fires. But Between Two Fires, the creativity in that book is just... It's so good that it actually carries it up here instead of like... The character work is so bad that it would go into the Blow's Raspberries, but... the world building and creativity is so strong. It actually it really is doing a lot of work for that book. All right, let me do all the Dungeon Crawler Carls to piss everyone off. Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. Yeah, not my favorite if I'm being honest. I've listened to the first book twice, which I think is a mistake. I listened to it once by myself, and I thought, hey, that was pretty good. I liked it. It was funny. I go, ha. But it's got a lot of problems. The pacing, I think, is all over the place. It's very repetitive. It's very much like, fight! Oh, okay. Open the loot box. Gear up. Look at stats. Fight! All right. Open the loot box. Look at gear. Level up. Fight! Over and over again for the whole book. And while, again, it was very creative, I think Matt Dinniman's creativity is what carries this series. He's extremely creative. I do think his humor is pretty funny. I think it has this weird... it's a lot of pop culture humor, which I don't typically like in my media because it really dates it. Like, I think Dungeon Crawler Carl is great for right now. I think Dungeon Crawler Carl is not going to hold up 50 years from now or 20 years from now, because the pop culture references, so many of these jokes are just going to go because they are referencing something from this, that is relevant right now. So I don't really like that in my humor or my media. And I also think Carl and Princess Donut, I love the idea of Princess Donut, and she's great. They are very two-dimensional characters, or one-dimensional. Do they call them one-dimensional characters? Two-dimensional. We'll say we'll give them one. We'll give them one. They're two-dimensional. They're very just flat characters, and I know, it gets better in book 4, sure, but for book 1, meh. And then I listened to it again with Bree because I thought I was going to continue this series. So yeah, I did. I listened to this book twice somehow. But yeah, it's a good book. It's a good book. Oh my gosh, where do I put this thing? Okay, so here's what I'll say. I think Matt Dinniman and Will White, at least for The Last Horizon, they feel very similar in what they're doing. But I think The Last Horizon is better in pretty much every way, at least for the Dungeon Crawler Carl books that I've read. Speaking of, Carl's Doomsday Scenario, book 2 of Dungeon Crawler Carl. I went into this expecting better because anytime I voiced my opinion about how I didn't like the grinding aspects of Dungeon Crawler Carl and all the stat crunching, everyone was like, "We hear you, dog. We hear you, but don't worry. Book 2, oh, it's so different, so different. There's not really any of that." I was like, "Really? Okay, all right, I'm on board." Guys, they lied to me. They lied. The whole first hour of the audiobook is them in a room looking at stats. It's not even like we got a little bit in before that happened. It's like the whole first hour is that. Now, to be fair, after that it does tie off a bit. But I think Carl and Donut are just so flat in this book, and when they're your main character, there's a difference between repetition and for repetition's sake, and repetition to like drive a character home. Like I think Logan Nine Fingers is pretty repetitious. He says a lot of things over and over again. And actually, all Joe Abercrombie characters do. They're very repetitive with like mantras and things like that, and it works for the characters. Carl has a mantra, and it's just that is the only thing in these books that give him any ounce of character work. And if that's the only thing, when it's a mantra, it's like I'm just hearing the same thing over and over again. It's like, sure, but like you gotta give me more. And unfortunately, Matt Ditman did not. So therefore, I like this one. I don't even know. I guess I liked it a little bit more. Maybe. I don't know. They kind of felt like the same. It's just like sub out the quest. So sure. We'll put it right there. And then the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook, the third Dungeon Crawler Carl. I said, Matt, you're an idiot. You should continue. This is something you will like. And everyone says it gets good by book 5, except for some people who are like, "Oh, you didn't. Oh, we know we said that like in book 2 it gets a lot better. We meant book 3." And I was like, "Oh, okay, you meant book 3. So not book 5 like everyone else. Book 3. Okay." So I tried book 3, and yeah, I DNF'd it. I could probably put all of them here if I wanted to, but yeah, I'll put this here just because I DNF'd it. Don't know what I'd give it. Really, I just like listened to a couple hours and I just couldn't even say concentrating on it because I just was bored out of my mind. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Dungeon Crawler Carl. I don't like it, and I don't like it enough to push through to book 4. Sorry guys, I'm sure it gets good. I do. I believe it. I believe by book 4, the character work starts to take over and the politicking starts to take over and it actually gets interesting. I believe it. I believe you all. I don't know why I do because you've lied to me multiple times, but no, I do. I believe it. But to me, like that is similar to someone saying, "Oh, have you seen this show? Oh, season 4, it gets really good." I'm like, okay. So I just have to suffer through 3 seasons to get to a good show? That doesn't make any sense. That's not a good show. A good show is good through its entirety, guys. Come on. So there's just too many good things to read that are good from the beginning. I don't need to suffer through. Maybe one day. Maybe if I've read everything else, maybe I will. But this is a perfect time for me to push Ian, my co-host, if you will, who absolutely adores Dungeon Crawler Carl. He loves Dungeon Crawler Carl, so much so I think he is thinking about doing a series, kind of like a deep dive of each book, which is awesome. And that's, to me, that's actually how I'm going to enjoy consuming the books. I'm just going to watch his little spoiler recap videos because I think I will get exactly the same thing out of these books than if I had spent 15 hours reading them. I could just get all of it in an hour. So I'm stoked for him to do that. If you love Dungeon Crawler Carl and hate me for hating it, you can love Ian for loving it. So yeah, that's Dungeon Crawler Carl. Rant over. Speaks the Nightbird by Robert McCammon. Historical fiction. Takes place just after the witch trials in like 1699 or something. It may be 1701 or something. I can't remember what year it is. In like a Carolina colony, following a very young clerk, basically, to a magistrate, and they're going because a woman has been accused of witchcraft. And this is a story about solving a mystery in a town with very, very deep and compelling characters. And it's trying to uncover this mystery with someone who is very immature, I would say, and inexperienced at this job, but trying to do what is right. And I loved this book. I have a couple problems with it, but it is an amazing book. And like I said, Robert McCammon really feels like Stephen King character-wise in this book. And it's perfect because I don't think Stephen King does a lot of like historical fiction like this. I know he's got a couple, like 11, 22, 63, but like this far back. So it really feels like a nice something like I'm getting King in a way that King probably would never do. And yeah, I love this book. It was so good. Actually, I think this is a great spot for it. I I'm bumping it. Oh, I really like this book. Yeah, let's put it there. It's phenomenal. Phenomenal character work. I think the mystery was I didn't know what was going on. I mean, I knew what was going on, but I didn't know the answer, which I've got opinions about that. Even if I do uncover what it's supposed to be and I guess it doesn't make the book bad. As long as the execution's there, then that's all I care about, and the execution is there, and also I didn't guess it. So yeah, just really good, really really good. The Long Walk by Stephen King. Really enjoyed this one as well. It's about a bunch of boys walking until they, if you slow down beneath a certain mile per hour, you get your ticket punched. And that's the whole book. So it's really just a bunch of boys walking and talking, but if that doesn't sound good to a character-driven reader, I don't know what does. Yeah, I mean, he writes... His characters they're just next level. They really are. It's not my favorite Stephen King book, for sure. It's not even like a top 5. I like Insomnia better. I'm pretty conflicted here. I think I put it... This feels good. Above Night Shift. Yeah, that feels good. I think I'm going to put it right there. Turns out it is not my favorite Bachman novel either. Spoiler, I've since read Roadwork. Holy moly, I loved Roadwork. I know that's a controversial take, but man, I was just blown away by Roadwork. But all right, we got 5 books left. Full Throttle by Joe Hill. This is a collection of short stories by Joe Hill. Really, really enjoyed this collection. I think there's a couple, just like most short story collections, there are a couple that don't work super well, but the highs are really high. I think I like this. I think that fits right there. I actually think this is better than 20th Century Ghosts. If you've never read any Joe Hill and you just want to taste, I think this is a really good jumping in point. You can just read a couple stories and get a good taste. And he writes a couple with his dad, Stephen King, specifically the first story in there, and it's a great first story. So, all right, The Tyranny of Faith, the second book in the Broken. What the hell is it called? The Empire of the Wolf. I always get this and Broken Empire mixed up. By Richard Swan. Like I said, I think the character work of I believe her name's Helena really increases. The relationship she has with Von Volt and I can't remember the other character's name. I think are really, really, really heightened in this book. This one's there's also a mystery going on, but we really broaden the scope a lot to this whole empire and the outside threats coming in, and it was awesome. Really, really enjoyed this book. This is gonna be amazing. That feels right. Okay. The Correspondent by Virginia Evans, I believe. This is a book club book. This is an interesting book. I I think it's executed really well. It's about a woman who only corresponds really via letter, and she's getting older, and she has a disease that is taking away. Actually, I don't know if. I guess it's. I won't say. She just has a disease that is going to affect her in a way, and you're kind of getting her relationship with different people via correspondence of letters. And yeah, it's good. It's really well written. It's heartwarming. It's emotional. It just felt a little too hallmarky for me. But I think objectively, it is a very good book. So we're gonna throw that. I liked it more than House of the Cerulean Sea. Yeah, I think that's a good spot. It's a good book. It's a book that like literally anybody could read this book and enjoy it. It's like you could recommend this book to anybody, and they would have they would get something out of it, something powerful. All right, we've got Trials of Empire, the third book in the Broken Empire. No, Empire of the Wolf trilogy. Yeah, I think Richard Swan stuck the landing here. Not as good as Tyranny of Faith. It does go off the rails a little bit, yes. I liked it. I think anyone that's blindsided by that, it makes me. It surprises me. I think he set it up perfectly for that. So I didn't find it surprising at all. I just maybe didn't enjoy it quite as much. But there are some scenes that are just like, holy moly, that was awesome. So I'm torn. I think this is like here. No, I think I like Gardens a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's a good spot. It's a good ending for sure. It's a really good ending. The whole trilogy is a banger. Good from start to finish. You gotta like some supernatural in your stuff, but like again, like I said, there's supernatural in all three books, so it's not like it's blindsiding like some people make it seem when they get to the third book. All right, and last is Frankenstein. I read the classic Frankenstein, and this was I'm really glad I read this. My buddy suggested it. Sorry, one sec. My buddy was wanting to read it, so we both read it. And yeah, I wanted to read some of the classics. I kind of knew going in just because how old it is. I expected some to struggle a little bit with the prose or writing style, and I definitely did. And when I finished this book, I was like, yeah, 3.5. It was good. The messaging was good. Like I enjoyed it. I hit a point and like the snowball started to roll and I started to pick up speed with the reading and like the pace really started to pick up all the way through the end. And I was like, yeah. And I liked it and I thought it was good. But there have not been very many books that have sat with me like Frankenstein, and I can't stop thinking about it. So I did have to up my score to a 4.25. It's not a life-changing book or anything like that, but I do think it is a very good book. And it has some great character work and just the whole thing about it is like, who's the real monster, right? Frankenstein's monster or Dr. Frankenstein? And the back and forth that you will feel as a reader, and you feel for both of them, and like it's just so nuanced and it's so good that it's worth reading for that alone. Yeah, I think it's gonna go right there. I will say, did not enjoy the Guillermo del Toro adaptation because he basically that to me that's the identity of the book, is what it means to be human. And Del Toro just took all that out and was just like from the very beginning, he's like, no, you're supposed to like this person and dislike this person. And it's just like, oh, okay, well, I never feel that conflict, so therefore I don't feel anything. It's just like we're all on the same page. And it didn't really work for me. It looked beautiful. It's a Del Toro movie. I mean, like, it was so good. But I just don't get why that got taken out. That's the identity of the book. But whatever, guys. I'm not a filmmaker. It's Del Toro's film. It is what it is. We'll see if it wins any Oscars. But yeah, that was all 56 or 57 if we're including Tress down here. Books that I read in 2025. I'm tired, guys. My voice hurts. Stupid pollen in Texas. Yeah, I did it. 4 life-changing books. This arguably could go up here. It's not really a life-changing book, but man, like, whew, it's like top of my king list. So, you know what? Screw it. We want 5 up there. We're getting 5 up there. But this would be the order. This would be the order. So yeah, that's it. That's every book I read. I plan on doing this with the movies too that I watched last year. If I've not already put that out, I don't know. I'm just gonna kind of record them whenever and then put them out in order that sounds good to me. So thank you for watching, and yeah, catch you on the next video. Goodbye.